So when was the last time you looked in the mirror? If you're like most Americans, it was sometime within the last hour. If you're a teenage girl, it was sometime within the last 2 minutes. Now, I'm guilty of looking in the mirror too. In fact, one day recently, I was teaching in a leadership class, and I had the people working in small groups, and while they were working in small groups, I ducked out to use the restroom. And as I washed my hands, I glanced in the mirror. God, my roots need to be touched up. Jeez. God, the lighting in here is terrible. Or am I really this pasty? Maybe I didn't get enough sleep last night. God, oh, those crow's feet. Man, I got that wrinkle cream. That eye cream, I should really start using that eye cream. You know, Nordstrom, they sell an eye cream. It costs $1,200 per little tiny jar. The tax on that's $280. I mean, if you can afford $1,200 for eye cream, who cares if you have wrinkles? Nobody's looking at your skin, they're looking at your bling and your Mercedes. So we look at ourselves in the mirror a lot. Now, that one glance in the midst of a busy workday is actually a glimpse into a much larger picture. According to a USA Today study, women look in the mirror almost 1 hour, 1 full hour each day, 55 minutes each day. That adds up to 2 full weeks per year and 5 months for every decade of our lives. 5 months. That is a lot of time. Now, if you think that this is a women's issue, you'd be wrong. Because men look in the mirror almost as much as women do. But when men look in the mirror, they see themselves differently. 20 pounds here, losing my hair there. I'm still awesome. They don't see the negative the same way that women do. Now, much of this time looking in the mirror is spent doing something we call getting ready. Getting ready involves drying and styling our hair. It involves putting on makeup, shaving, brushing our teeth, and checking to make sure that our clothes are straight. All of which involve looking in a mirror. And if you're a teenager, you do all of that while taking a selfie. It's necessary for us to look in the mirror, and it's necessary for us to look in the mirror a fair amount. Now, if you're a woman and you're getting ready, oftentimes you put that set of clothes on and you decide that's the completely wrong outfit for the day's activities, discard that clothes on the bed, put on a second outfit, and then, looking in the mirror, decide you're too lumpy, too bumpy, too plain, too just about anything in that outfit, so that outfit goes on the bed, and you put on that third outfit. Now, sometimes I'll ask my husband how I look. And he definitely tells me, "Oh, you look great." Even when he's lying, it boosts my self-esteem. But actually, that's not what my husband does. What he really does is he says, "Oh, honey, your blouse is buttoned up all wrong. You've got a stain on your skirt, and those are the wrong shoes for that outfit." Then he helps me fix it all. And then he stands back and he says, "Now you're perfect." I kind of like that. Now, we do all of this getting ready, but for what? To go into the office for a day that was pretty much just like the day we had at the office yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that? But you know, sometimes people do notice. They do notice. And they say, "Hey, did you get your hair cut? That's a nice outfit. New nail color?" They do notice. And then you think to yourself, "Actually, I got new glasses, but I guess that $1,200 eye cream is paying off." Now, a study was done where, a market research study was done where 27,000 people across 22 countries were surveyed about how much they look in the mirror. And it turns out that this is not just an American issue. The United States, France, and Italy all tied for first place for how much we look in the mirror, with Cleveland and Ames a distant second and third. Now, we also will look in the mirror in things that aren't really mirrors. We'll look at our reflection in just about any surface. So sometimes we're looking at our reflection in our cell phone, sometimes it's a store window as we're walking by, sometimes it's the side view mirror of our car. Ever done this? Beep, beep. Wow, I'm looking really thin today. Downright tiny. Oh, dang. Objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. And there's spinach in my teeth. So we'll use just about anything to look at our reflection. We can't not. Now, 8 in 10 women report that we don't like what we see in the mirror. 8 in 10 women complain about what they see about their bodies when they look in the mirror. They see that they're too big in some places, too small in other places, too tall, too short, any number of things. Now, when we're looking in the mirror, we're not just seeing our reflection. We're seeing our reflection and then we're telling ourselves a story about what we see. And a lot of the times, what we're telling ourselves, that self-talk, is not very positive. We're beating up on ourselves. And we're saying the meanest, cruelest, most horrible things to ourselves. Things that we would never say to anybody else. But maybe something you'd want to say to your mother-in-law. We say these things to ourselves. And when we're looking in the mirror and having this negative self-talk, it's doubly damning. It's one thing to just think it, but it's another thing to think it and see it at the same time. And when we're sending ourselves this negative message about what we look like, we are damaging our self-esteem, we're damaging our self-confidence, and we are damaging our absolute sense of self. Now, we're trash-talking ourselves and just saying these horrible things. And again, it does a number, not only on our self-esteem, but on our self-perception. A few years ago, Dove did a study. And Dove's study was fascinating. And it was called the Dove Real Beauty Sketches. And some of you may be familiar with this. You might have seen the video. If you're not familiar with it, here's what happened. An FBI forensics trained artist interviewed women from behind a screen, so he didn't see them, and he asked them what they looked like. They described their facial features and their hair and so on, and he sketched them as they talked. Then he invited another person, essentially an absolute stranger, who just had a few minutes to talk to that same woman, to sit behind the screen, and he asked them the same questions. Describe the woman. Now, each of then they set the portraits side by side. And when you looked at those portraits side by side, there was a remarkable difference. The portraits of the women who self-described looked much, much worse. Their eyes were closer set and almost beady. Their features were exaggerated in a negative fashion. And overwhelmingly, they were far more unattractive than when described through the eyes of a complete stranger. How we see ourselves is not how others see us. We need to see ourselves a little bit more like how others see us. Now, if you're like me and you're on average looking in the mirror about an hour a day, 5 months in the coming decade that we're going to spend looking in the mirror, it behooves us to spend some time examining how we are looking in the mirror and change our ways just a little bit, or maybe a lot. Now, I recently had an opportunity where I saw myself differently. It was a few months ago. I was on spring break with my family and some friends. And it was our last day on spring break. And I walked back into the condo and I was washing my hands before lunch. I just had a nice long walk on the beach with the 2 other moms that we were with. And as I washed my hands in the bathroom sink and I glanced in the mirror, I saw something I hadn't seen for a while. Sure, I saw a tangle of humidity-induced curls and saltwater tangles and sunburned skin and really, really sunburned lips. But I also saw a look of peace and contentment and bliss that I hadn't seen in a really long time. So I walked out of the bathroom over to the living room where the lighting was better because I wanted to capture that moment. My daughter was sitting on the couch. "What you doing, Mama?" "Taking a selfie." Moms are so weird. "Hey, hon, I gotta tell you something. This look right here, this is me, relaxed and blissful and happy and content and filled with joy. And I hope that when you're my age, you have lots and lots of moments when you look like this. And in the meantime, I'm taking this selfie so that I don't forget to schedule next spring break. Can we go to the Bahamas?" So find those moments where you have an opportunity to glance at yourself and see yourself differently. I'm not going to ask you to stop looking in the mirror. We all do it. We need to do it. Because guess what? We're doing things like putting on mascara and shaving, and those are sharp objects that we're using. So we need to look in the mirror. But when you look in the mirror, I want you to see something different. There are 3 different ways that I want you to start looking at yourself differently. The first piece is look to see what's there. What's under those wrinkles and those tangly curls and that adult acne? What's inside there? Are you a person who is compassionate and cares deeply about all the creatures on the planet, even the hairless cats? Are you a person who finds a way to bring levity and joy and humor into your workplace, into your family, even when it annoys your spouse? Are you a person who finds their way through complicated situations, through situations and difficult things that life throws at you, and yet you manage to persevere and come out on the other side your resilient self? If that's who you are, then see that and acknowledge that and know that there is great value in that. The second thing is when you look in the mirror and you think those thoughts that I call self-talk, make them positive thoughts. Now, it doesn't have to be self-affirmations. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And gosh darn it, people like me. Now, those of you who are laughing watched Saturday Night Live in the 1980s. Some of you watched it with me. If you're not sure who I'm impersonating, just ask someone who's laughing now. So it doesn't have to be cheesy affirmations, but when we do look in the mirror, when we say things to ourselves about ourselves, those things should be powerful and positive. Now, the third thing that you can do is to acknowledge others. Acknowledge the beauty that you see in others, because they may not be seeing it in themselves. And when you acknowledge the beauty that you see in them, you're bringing a little more beauty into the world. And it's going to change how that person looks in the mirror, and it's going to change what they see in themselves. Now, I have a couple of examples. My friend Amanda is here tonight. And I've only known Amanda for a few years. She's the mom of a good friend of my youngest son. I've never told Amanda this. But when I see Amanda, she lights up with a bright, beautiful smile, just like the one she's got on right now. And I can see kindness in her eyes and the warmth in her heart, and it feels as if I've known her for decades. And I've never told her that. My friend Leanne is also here tonight, and I have known Leanne for decades, but we don't get to see each other very often. But when we do see each other, despite her busy life, despite all the things that she has going on, because like me, she has a family, she has a career, she has a dog, she has it all going on, she always stops me and she says, Janel, but what about you? And she always wants to know how I'm doing. And I've probably never told her how much I appreciate that. Thank you. It's moments like those where we give other people a glimpse into how we see them that is going to change how they see themselves. And when they see themselves and they hear us saying how we see them, when they see themselves just a little bit differently, it's going to change the way they look into the mirror. Now, a final thought I want to leave you with is if we can bring into the world just a little more of this acknowledgement, a little more acceptance and a little less judgment, we are going to change the world, one conversation and one comment at a time. It starts with you, and it starts with me, and it starts with how we look into that mirror. And on your way out tonight, we've got a little tiny mirror for each one of you to put in your pocket or your purse so that you can look in the mirror and see yourself a little bit differently. Because tonight, whether it's right now when you get handed that mirror as you leave the theater, or whether you glance in the mirror in the bathroom or the mirrored doors in the hallway in this theater, I want you to see yourself a little bit more like I see you. Thank you.